Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
Today we are covering Before They Are Hanged, the second book in the original trilogy, and we'll be covering Long Shadows, and Next My Gold, and Fear. So, let's get started. Besides the usual, we'll thank, the audience for all your support and everyone.
Thank you, audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. And just to remind you guys to keep following us on the social medias and our YouTube page. That's actually been doing pretty good lately. So awesome. That's all due to Harrison's great video on the Great Northern War. Clap, clap, clap.
Go watch it.
Some fucking good stuff, bro.
Great
Thank
stuff.
you, guys. Thank you. You guys are my inspiration. Thank you.
Please, everyone, keep flocking towards it. That'd be nice. Now, a bit of an update regarding this episode. I have been swamped with work in the last 3 weeks. Absolutely, just smothered. So, Harrison and George are going to take the lead on this episode. So,
We'll see about that.
oh no, I mean, it's not really a choice. You are. So,
Yes, sir.
So, in that case, buddy, let's get started with the first chapter read through.
All right. So we start off from Giselle. Sorry,
Fuck,
Logan's point of view. The pressure is too much. I never start the episode. We start off from Logan's point of view as they come up on the Eos, and Logan's like, "God damn, that's a deep river."
Yeah.
And the Eos is like this huge river that is like a quarter mile across, and it's super deep. It's jagged sides around the outside of the banks. It's running river. Now, it could be that it shallows out in some spots. Obviously, they say that there are fords and things, but I can't think of a river in this particular scene in real life that's actually like this.
I mean, the closest thing that probably would be if the Colorado River and at the Grand Canyons was 10 times deeper than it is, like the actual river itself.
Yeah.
Very good point. Very good point.
Yeah, which is really cool to think about. That's a really cool, unique.
Yeah, that's probably where
feature.
That's probably where Joe got the inspiration from. Now that I think about it, because there isn't really another geographical feature like that we know of, or at least not as popular. Correct?
No, I couldn't name one. Probably
Of course, There's probably one in China. There's always one in China.
There's always one in China. Yeah, I was just about to say the three.
Right. Well, I mean, I know obviously the Nile, the Danube, and I'm trying to think of big rivers, but
the Amazon doesn't have anything like that. It's much lower. There's no jagged cliffs, at least not.
It's all lush greenery and drunk Brazilians. So
yes, that's what the Amazon is made of. So I like how everybody looks at it. Logan's like, well, this isn't like a northern river. He's like, you could, no northern rivers are like that. Like, they can get deep, they can get running, but they're not like both, and they're not this crazy. Giselle, I love how very human Giselle is. He's just like,
he's just
this
absolutely
is cool.
This is so cool. Can you see that? That's so fucking cool.
It's fucking huge. Because Logan's thinking about how we're gonna cross this, and then Pharaoh's like, "That's a lot of fucking water."
Pharaoh's just not even speaking, right? She's just
Pharaoh's like in the Badlands, that's just constant. You water's the most sacred resource, and then here's a whole fucking a huge amount of fresh water just laying here. She's like, "What the heck?"
Yeah. And then Logan asks her, "Oh, is that where you're from? Were you born in the Badlands?" Nobody's fucking born there, you idiot. That's why it's called the Badlands.
And he's like, "Oh." Yeah. And then he's, he tries to be, nice, and she's like, what do you care?
Yeah.
But he's like, just trying to be friendly. And eventually she seems to at least be like, well, I was a slave. And he's like, a slave? What the hell? And then she's like, yeah, I was bought and sold and everything. And he's like, oh, I don't have a custom like that in the North. And she's like, well, good for you.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know what it is.
Good for fucking you, asshole. And he's like, what?
What did I do?
I said that's bad.
And then they after they leave the Eos going further north, I believe, they come across what Giselle was like, oh, what city is this? It's like this big ruin. And Bias is like, oh, this isn't a city. This is a palace that the emperor used to come to during the wintertime, which Giselle thought it was a city. It's not like it's Logan asking. Giselle thought it was like, oh, this is like similar to Adua. He was like, oh, it's just one building. He's
like, what?
I mean, which puts the Palace of Versailles as not very big.
Fuck you, Louis. Any of the 14, it could be any of them.
I knew George was going
French.
to jump on that. Yeah.
George can't help himself. Apologize to all our fellow, Frenchmen.
To be fellow Frenchmen.
Well, they're.
Hey, you're Portuguese.
Is this something you haven't told me yet, Jeff?
Are you a traitor?
I mean, I do have family in France. I mean, I don't know.
So
sorry, we can't be friends.
Oh shit! Cancel the flights.
A heartache.
Then Giselle is like, did a glue straw tear this place down? And Bias is like, no, it was in another war, one that was basically just as bad as the glue straw war, whenever Canadius and Juvens fought. And they just kind of talk about it back and forth here. And then Pharaoh's like, oh, there are some riders. And everyone's like, where? Where are you talking about? They start looking around. She's like, oh, they're out there. I'm going to go climb up here. She starts climbing up the building to go get a better view of them. Then...
So they all go into take shelter in the ruin. They find some reliefs on the walls. Like, like carving of like histories and things. And they're starting to look, and I love how Byers just kind of like does some background story. Like, here we go. Here's this bit, and I feel like I've seen this part in films, and where they're just like looking at the walls, and it's like, oh, this is the plot. Oh my god, look, it's the plot. It's conveniently written on the walls here.
What's funny here too is the fact that Bias is like, oh, look at this thing, and he's reiterating what we already know. Like, oh, look, here's Eus giving his 3 sons the gifts.
Yeah.
Like, we already know that.
And then Kwai butts in. He's like, Glostron digs. Who knows? Maybe in the next one he might have found what he's looking for.
And Bias is like, ooh, I don't think I like the way.
Yeah, let's not look at the next one.
Yeah,
okay.
He was like, stop being passive aggressive, Kwai. That's the look he gives him. He's like, stop that shit. I don't know why you're being passive aggressive, but I can tell you are.
Yeah, chill out, Kwai. Oh, and right before that, I did notice real quick. You know what my favorite parts is? Like you said, when Pharaoh climbs up to get a better look. It describes like she just climbs as much as like swarm like an insect. Yeah. So you can imagine she's like
so like just scuttling up the side of the building.
Oh, Jesus, Pharaoh.
And everyone's just chilling, and fucking Brother Longfoot's like, I must say, I have done a very good job at leading everybody across the plain.
Yeah.
And was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Here we go.
Even Bias is like, I don't think I'm going to kill myself. Yeah, Logan's like, I don't know which one's worse, Bias's anger or fucking Brother Ninefoot's bragging.
Brother Ninefoot.
Brother Longfoot. I looked down and started reading it. I was like, oh shit, can you imagine? Although, I think that does might fit closer later on.
Mm-hmm.
He just also gives them, he's like, we're already like a quarter of our way there, blah, 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 blah. And
across the featureless plain as autumn turns to winter without even the stars to reckon by.
He just goes on and on and on. And then Giselle starts sharpening, his blade, and Brother Longfoot's all like, oh, so all you do is sharpen that thing. Do you even know how to use it? Just starts talking shit for some reason. And Giselle reaches out and cuts his apple that Brother Longfoot is eating into 2 pieces. And Brother Longfoot's like, oh shit! And he drops them both. And he gets all. Oh no, I'm sorry. He stabs it, doesn't it?
Yeah, he had moved speared it. Yep.
Yeah, and he spears it and then he cuts it.
Yeah, he spears it and then he flicks it out, cuts it in half. Brother Longfoot's like, oh god, what do I do? And Logan and Giselle like, ha 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 ha. They share a laugh together.
And then Logan does this weird analogy where he compares them all to their swords. So like Luthar's like pretty but not used. Logan's simple and heavy but sharp enough.
Mhm.
And then what was it? Pharaoh's curve and wicked looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Pharaoh's might be more like a scimitar or something, I imagine, right? Something of that
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
Curve, sword.
I think even the readers kind of hate how unusually accurate.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who said it. If I had said it, we'd be like, oh, that's interesting.
Because it's Brother Longfoot. It's like, nah, you're just an idiot.
Yeah.
So Longfoot
then-
goes up the tree to find another apple.
He's
Fucking-
like,
as
on there
he's
like a-
doing this analogy, Logan just cuts the fucking branch away from under him, and they have a good little chuckle to themselves.
And
It's
then
like, fucking hell.
and then they start talking about women, and Giselle says kind of one of his more scummier things, like, what else is a woman? What good is a woman if you can't talk about her, sexually, basically. And right as he talks about that, fucking Pharaoh throws shit at him,
Yeah, just a big fucking clump of bird shit.
which is pretty accurate, seeing as she was like, oh yeah, I was a slave. And what do you think?
Yeah.
And then Giselle's down there like, women, they're only good for sex. She's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
But Vero does notice that the people who were looking for them was heading the same way that they had came from. So presume they're all kind of like, they're probably looking for us. It's kind of their thought process.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have anything
Well,
you want to add to that?
just want to add to like the end of that chapter. I saw that Bias is like, by the way, stop throwing any shit.
Yeah.
Stop it!
It's not sanitary.
Oh.
I just like the not sure what the there's, I guess, the thematic elements of this chapter. I don't know really what they would be, but here I just like the I guess more of the, man, I'm really winging this, George. You might have to delete this part, but if I come up with something good, leave it in. But
How about you just redo the episode where you narrate it, and then we'll just add our stuff in.
yeah, right.
No, I think you're right, Jeff. That there is a theme of some kind to this chapter, but you don't know what it is.
All right, you're just gonna have to delete this. So Harrison,
Well,
I
no,
just-
because the theme of the chapter is like, it's called Long Shadows, and there's all this history, and this literally stood in the Long Shadow.
Yeah.
So it's like, they're literally hiding and using the past as a refuge.
right? Oh, George. Okay. I
Oh,
like that. Nice.
Jesus.
So maybe that's it. I just came up with that on the spot. So
Oh, that's
Jeff.
good shit.
That's good. I mean, I didn't even read this chapter, so I mean,
Yeah. Well,
What would you rate this chapter, Harrison?
Oh, I reckon I'd probably rate it a good 7 out of 9 fingers. I think this might be, like, they're all together in this one, even Brother Longfoot, and they have these really nice interactions and they all kind of look at each other, and they're a little bit further along. They're not quite as like cold shouldered to each other, and it just creates a much more interesting dynamic where they're all kind of in this weird space. Like, well, okay, we're companions, we're traveling. I don't hate you, I guess, but they also don't really get along at the same time.
Yeah.
And I just think it demonstrates that wonderfully. And I didn't think about that analogy, but I like that analogy. There's also something to be said about foreshadowing with this chapter of that theme, with how each of the characters act. And I like that. It's nice.
Yeah. I would have given this one a 9 out of 9 because Brother Longfoot gets bullied.
wow. God damn, George.
Gets taken down a peg, doesn't it? It's brilliant. Love it.
He gets taken down a couple pegs, and then
Never know. Anytime Brother Longford gets his, his feet smashed, that he's gonna fucking get a 9 out of 9 chapter.
He just blew that out of the fucking.
What are you talking about?
Nothing.
That's
Just
a
an
load of
analogy.
spoilers.
Oh, it's an analogy. Gotcha. Well, George with the 9 out of 9. Okay. Jesus. And don't forget, you
Well,
probably did it also because of Giselle getting some shit on his face, right?
Yeah, that too as well.
Again, considering that I'm just gonna be rating these chapters just on how good George and Harrison do the read-throughs, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 9 because they were talking about the ladies, if you know what I mean.
Well, that makes me feel like I did a bad narrative.
Well, no, it's just more because it's related to what they were talking about. They were like the ladies, the women, and then Luthor gets his just desserts.
Ew.
Yeah. So All right, awesome. Good job, Harrison.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we'll move on to our next segment, which is best meme of the week. George, you want to take that over?
Yep, sure. So this week we've got user on Reddit, the Bloody Nine. I'm pretty sure we've had this guy before. We've actually did a guest spot with him. So good to
Yes,
have
we
you
did.
back, Bloody Nine.
The
The
Bloody
meme is
Niner.
that very emotive snake that looks very suspicious, and it's when Gorst sees shivers on the heroes. And I absolutely love that. I don't know where you find this shit, dude. You have to show me something.
He does find some really good pictures.
He does find the best one.
he literally does have the face like, wait a minute.
Have you ever been?
Styria? Sapati? Sapati.
So yeah, thank you very much.
So
We'll
good.
probably see you soon.
Thanks. All right. So who wants to do the second chapter read through? Which is and next my gold.
The Sandan Galacta.
Oh Jesus.
Superior of the Gus. George, take it away, please.
Yeah, George, you should do it.
Yeah, so we get this letter from Salt, which I absolutely love. It's basically just, I fucking hate you. There's no money. We haven't got any soldiers. The shit's going down in England and at home. We haven't got any money. Again. And then he just says, you will not ask again, which is very final, Don't ask. So he's saying, you're on your own. And this is where we get to Glock's chapter. Is basically, he knows he's on his own. He's at his fucking wit's end. He's stretched all of his favors to his absolute limit with everyone. Visbrick's borrowed all the money he can. Verms has borrowed all the money he can. And they're, has hit 100,000 marks in debt.
They are 50. They're 500. Well, yeah,
no,
you're right.
Nearly 400,000.
Yeah, nearly 400,000.
Almost. Yeah. And he's just like, oh fuck. Just he keeps saying, yeah, the money's on its way. I assure you. Please, just keep going. Keep doing what you can.
He's like, money and reinforcements are on the way. I assure you.
Yeah. But it's nice to see that the ruling council of Zagosco is actually starting to take him seriously. But
yeah,
even though he's got the king's written,
the ones that are there, right? Verms and Visbrook, they're there, and they're like, listen, we're trying here, but we don't have what we need. So, and that's basically all the first little part of this chapter is just them discussing back and forth how they don't have what they need.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now they have repaired. It's a status update on Dagosca. They have repaired the land walls, and they have dug the ditch in front of the land wall below sea level, and they've repaired the gates. So in terms of that, they're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of food, they're also pretty good to go. But now they can't do anything else.
Yeah. And then he cuts to this conversation with Severard, and he's basically getting a status report from it, and he just happens to mention like, "Oh, do you have any cash?" And you're like, "No, I gave it to a girl in the slums. Fucks like a madman." And then I love this bit where he's like, just reaches into his pocket and he's like, 12 bits. That's all I got. Sorry.
And I like the continuation that I can see here, where it's like 12 bits is all I can raise, and then right after it's, I guess, a time jump, right? And it's like 12,000 is all I can raise from Carlotte that Nighter. It's like, oh, that was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually really love that. He did that, I think once inside the first book. I just love this little how it like transitions to each thing and how they're kind of all related without them feeling actually like the same thing.
Yeah, and especially in the audiobooks where you don't have to physically read it yourself, it kind of works really well.
Yeah, because Verms is like, without money, we can do nothing. Everyone's like, nothing.
And then it's equally useless. 12,000 is just as useless as 12 bits. When it comes to half a million.
Amount. Yeah.
It doesn't really make a dent.
So, Magister Ida instead gives Clockter her jewelry. Seems like a very generous. Considering she's in the city as well, self-preservation.
Yeah, I mean, how much do you think that jewelry is worth?
I mean, we don't get any figure or anything, but back then in the medieval, early Renaissance times, It's probably one of the most expensive things you could have.
I mean, that's how you stored your wealth back then. That's why jewels are valuable nowadays, is because you said, this costs this much. That's why it's important to me. And now it costs that much.
Mhm.
So I'd imagine probably a couple thousand marks, but like really nothing. I mean,
Yeah, still piss. Drop in the bucket, as he says.
but he's like, oh, and presumably, when they're talking again, I feel as though, they're not just talking in a room. I feel like they're like having another dinner or something. That's how I always listen to or read it,
Yeah.
is that they're this is like a part of their conversation and not like the conversation between these two in particular, which I thought was the way it reads. I thought was interesting way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like their dynamic, their interactions, Ida and Glocta. I don't know. They seem to like, if it's just a different time, a different place, they could have made a great couple, a power couple.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah, but this is a Joe Abercrombie book, so it's never going to happen.
Yeah, right. Silly me reading fantasies, inspecting like a fairy tale at least. Oh, stupid Jeffrey.
Stupid Jeffrey. And then after she's like, oh, it's the least I will do. I will speak with you soon. And then Shickle's like, he says he must speak with you soon.
Yeah.
Speak with you now, sorry.
Yeah, speak with you now.
That's another good scene transition.
Yeah. His
And,
timing is well done, I just gotta say.
Yeah. And then, presumably, Glocta sitting in his office, and there's a banker come calling, got a man called Mouth. Glocta immediately goes, "Yeah, no, this guy wants his money back. Whoever he is, he must want his money back." He's like, "I'll have to arrest all of them soon." And I like how that's just his first thought. It doesn't matter. Like, he's genuinely borrowed money off these people, and they do have a grievance, but he's just like, "I'll just get him arrested." It's
Yeah, he's like, I'll just torture him. Not me now.
nah, it's fine.
It's like when you have a bill that you need to pay and you keep forgetting about it.
Yeah. It turns out it's actually the opposite. This Malthus is from Fallon and Bulk, and they're here to actually make an offer. And I love this scene. I love the descriptions of these boxes as they bring them in. Just like these stacks of coins. And he's just like, oh my god, I've never seen this much money in my life. So the first two boxes contain exactly what he needs, like 500,000. And then he brings in and puts another cherry on top, which is another 500,000 in jewels.
Ooh.
So all of a sudden, Glocta is flush.
Flush is the word. Man,
flush.
filthy rich.
Yeah.
Well, with interest.
With, yes, exactly, the caveat that there will be unspecified favours maybe asked in the future, which is never a good thing to agree to.
I really like this scene too, George, because he's sitting in there talking about how I need things, and lots of times inside these stories, something happens as like a plot convenience, right? And this does certainly at first you'll be like, oh, that's convenient, but it makes a lot of sense knowing the context, and that's that Valen and Bulk are in deep somewhere. I mean, we know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And now here they come with a ton of money and say, oh, don't worry about it. You probably just will owe us everything. Not a big deal. And so, yeah, so you're like, plot convenience, but now you know more about the Valen and Bulk. And Glocta feels probably the same way. Yes, he has the money to defend the city, but now he also knows that that they want Dagaska to be at least be defended, whoever they're in with, which is interesting. I remember when I first read this, I was like, that's a lot of money, and I did not expect that to happen like this. Like,
no, I didn't, definitely.
So blatant.
It is extremely blatant. And, it's very clever the way that this ties. Actually, no spoilers. And that's how they serve. It's just, oh, I've got a lot of money and I'm in a lot of danger.
Yeah, he goes on for quite a bit with it. He's thinking about how everything, he's like, I love the line where he's like, perhaps I can go to the Archlector and just tell him, oh no, not a big deal. I just took 1,000,000 marks from Banking House of Valen and Bulk. I promise I'm still loyal.
Yeah. Body found floating by the docks.
Body found
Oh god.
Yeah.
So, what would you give this chapter, Harry?
Disregard that last bit. I think I cut out. What were you saying, George? Can you repeat that again?
What would you rate this chapter, you guys? Even though you haven't read it, Jeff.
I'll rate it first for
Yeah,
Jeff.
please. You
Um,
read it first. I'll think about it.
I'm gonna rate this chapter a 3 out of 9.
Ooh.
Again, remember,
Ooh.
folks, it's not because I don't like it. It's so fucking amazing. But I like how it transitions. But this is almost, other than the last scene there with Fallon and Bulk, it is kind of like oh look, we're out of money now. It's just kind of a stepping stone, which is part of the story. And it's nice to see a little progression with the characters. That scene with Malthus, while written very well from Glock's point of view, I don't think is like stand out enough to be like, oh my god, it's so good. The thing the thing I like most about the chapter is it takes a problem that's there, it resolves that problem by flipping it on its head and being like causing even more tension now. Because whereas yes, we don't want to, like, how is it going to solve this money problem? That's much less interesting than, oh, our main character is in extreme debt with an unknown entity who is in super powerful positions. And now we know that the Valen and Bulk has a fuck ton of money. Like, not just like, oh, they're a bank they loan out. No, they have like ridiculous amounts of money.
Yeah, they can give away $1 million without even thinking about it.
So I feel like that's the only true highlight of this chapter for me. Is yes, of course, it's Joe's work, all the little character work here and there, but that last scene definitely changes the dynamic of Dagaska and of Glock's position in the Union overall quite a bit.
Oh, well, you put it perfect. I reckon I give it a 4. One, but just because I like the scene transition, especially in the audiobooks. I know we're not supposed to do it, especially based on the audiobooks, but this chapter is just a delight to listen to.
It was really fun.
I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 9 as well. Harrison convinced me. George, your reading was great, but I'm just giving it because Arch Lecter's letter. That's what I'm doing it for.
Do not ask again.
I want to point
You will
out
not
about,
disappoint.
I want to point out about his letter. Right, he starts off like, "I am most troubled." Like, oh man, he's already he got the progress report.
Gaslighter.
He's not happy. He's not happy. And then I do like that we get like little plot developments from secondhand accounts. That happens a lot in this in like Joe Abercrombie's work, where he says something like, "Unfortunately, a certain rebellious temper among the peasantry throughout Midderland is occupying, what remains of the army." Do you know what I mean? I'm like, so that means that's a seed planted for later on, and then he just continues to berate Glockta into doing his job with absolutely no resources, and that's hilarious to me. So, 3 out of 9 for me. Again, everyone, I haven't been able to read the chapters, so forgive me. So, all right. Well, thank you for the scores, gentlemen. Now we'll move on to our character spot, and it is
Malthus. The old cold fish himself.
He's like a 50-year-old, right? He's not that old.
Hey, yo, mouth. What that mouth do?
Whoa. Jeffrey, you like the older man.
Jeffrey, what? What I do? What?
So Malthus only has, and really, guys, it's because we get to big 3.
We'll get into that part of the book.
Yeah.
Where we are just, there is only character. So Malthus is the only, or one of the only extra characters covering today.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have a personality, and he doesn't seem like a human being. So what I mean by this is, overall, it's a perfect representation of a banker.
Oh, he's bloodless. He's a soulless motherfucker. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, yeah. He's exactly what it is. He's a banker, and he's cold. He's motionless. He doesn't really do his shit, and he hands out millions when there's people starving nearby. Exactly like a banker.
Listen, I think personally that bankers are misunderstood and misrepresented.
How much are they paying you, Jeff?
No comment.
Yeah, Malthus.
Just for that, it's just a good little characterization. Sorry, Harry.
No, I was just gonna say I do like his description. He's a very distinct person, and he does get mentioned again. I won't say when, but he does get mentioned again, and I like how he is portrayed as a Yes, as a banker, but like as somebody he's the epitome of somebody just blatantly doing their job and is following orders, and everybody else always has like this opinion and life to them, and Malthus does not have any life. He's like dead inside. He's like, I've been working 9 to 5 for 30 years, and I still hate my job. They say there's a pension, but each time I want to go on a petition, they say that I pay my wages, so I owe them.
Yeah, exactly.
So
He is a company man.
yeah, he's a company man. He's a definition of a company man, a corporate official. If you try to tell Malthus, hey, I'm gonna take off work a little early today, he was like, I'm gonna remember that.
You're gonna what?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But perhaps the higher ups won't be. And you're like, oh god,
We only want the
that's
most
exactly
dedicated of employees here.
I don't need you here anyways.
Yeah.
Don't you have doesn't your child have a cancer surgery soon?
It'd be a big
Aw.
shame if somebody lost
You were-
their job.
If someone's benefits got slashed.
From one employee to another.
It'd be a shame
Oh,
if that
God,
occurred
yeah.
during the middle of the surgery.
Quick, put it back in. God, how are we joking about kids with cancer?
Oh, no.
Well, cancer. We didn't say cancer. We said surgery. Oh, you did? Oh shit.
I did.
Oh shit. Yeah. Kids with cancer. Oh.
Cancel me, people. Cancel me on this free podcast.
Speaking of which, guys, let's talk about monetize. I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, that was our character spot, everyone. Thank you so much, George and Harrison. Again, let's move on to our third chapter read through, and this one is fear. I guess Harrison, you're gonna take this one.
George, I don't want to put you on the spot,
Ooh.
but you really do like these Giselle chapters.
Ooh.
I do like just.
I think Harrison's just trying to shift the work onto you.
No, I know.
Oh,
I was just waiting for him to ask. We get a very rare thing for Joe for a beginning of a chapter for Joe, which is just a very long description of a landscape.
Yeah.
And I'd find that quite strange because Joe doesn't do this very often. So it's got to be something's going to happen. And you get this immediate feeling, I think, when you're reading Joe Abercrombie that you're like something is going to happen.
You're like,
Any
that's rather
minute now.
normal.
Yeah, this is way too normal. And just I was looking around, they're moving along. He's uncomfortable and he's whining as usual to himself.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, they're uncomfortable because they were out in the plain, right? And they could see everything. And now they're kind of in like this canyon area. And he is like looking around, thinking about how somebody's following them. And everyone else is all calm. How they calm.
Yeah. Jumping at his own shadow every 5 seconds. What's that? What was that? And everyone's been there, You've been on the dark road and you can't see anything. It's creepy. So I think he brings that along very well.
Yes, he does. And
okay,
go ahead, Jeffrey.
No, I was just gonna say, if I'm not mistaken, because now that I'm looking at the pages in front of me, this is the chapter where Giselle tries to pick Logan's brain.
Yes.
About fighting, and if I'm not mistaken, does what I think happen? Oh yeah, this happens later. Okay, so. This is actually a really good chapter. I'm excited about it. What I do like about this chapter from my memory, I'm just going off by memory, is Giselle, he sucks up his prejudice, his preconceived notions about, Pharaoh, Logan. Well, not Pharaoh and the other ones, but he does it with Logan. Because I guess he's... Go ahead.
I was just going to say he does a very... He still does kind of a cunt way of doing it.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
What he does is basically be like, oh, well, if I was trying to learn about mining, I would ask a miner, how to mine. He justifies it to himself. I would better. I mean, he's a killer. I mean, if I need to know about killing.
Yeah, but and that's him. That's when you're lying to yourself. Do you know what I mean? When you're doing like those mental gymnastics where he doesn't even want to admit to himself that he knows he's out of his depth. Now, he goes, I understood that you have led men into battle. And he's like, yep, I did. And then so once he actually talks to Logan a bit more in depth about this stuff and he gets the advice from Logan that you guys can like expound upon in a bit, he's like, oh, Logan, this Nine Fingers fella isn't so much of a barbarian. Still sings like shit, but he isn't so much of a barbarian, And
I like that moment that he realizes this is that he says Giselle says, "Oh, believe it or not, I've never actually been in a battle," and Logan's just like, "Oh, really? You don't say." And it's just like, and he looks at him. He's like, "Do you understand sarcasm? Like he's like an animal or something?"
It's like whenever a
right,
fucking
because
monkey
it
does
says
something.
their loss is our gain. I was like,
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I should be in Angland right now. I was like, oh yeah, oh that loss is our game.
Yeah. He says he's like, yeah, they're fighting those savage Northmen, and then his eyes swivel over like, come on, bro. You gonna do me like that?
Yeah. Well, that is to say that they're fighting Bethon.
yeah, and then he goes, "We don't all have your experience," and I was like, "Damn."
Yeah. But then he does actually give him some good advice. He's just
Yeah,
like, you gotta act, you gotta go, you've got a plan, you gotta go with it. You can't second guess yourself. If you do, you're gonna die. It's like, oh, okay. That's not very reassuring, but okay, thanks for the advice.
Yeah, and always look less than you are.
Yes, and that one. Which is a great piece of advice in general.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And then the
and that's
third,
what's funny is that like Logan's advice, it's good advice, but it's just advice that anybody would have if they'd ever been in a battle before, which obviously we
right.
know that Zhao hasn't.
or
Well, I
been
don't
in
know about
just a
that,
straight up,
George.
but been in a straight up fight.
Oh yeah, yeah. Or
Well,
at
that's
least,
the thing is,
not had the shit beaten.
Logan takes it a little further. He says, "Oh, what advice would you have for a battle?" And Logan's like, "Okay, here's some advice overall that you need." Like,
Yeah.
look less than you are, which he doesn't do. Never underestimate your opponent or whatever, or take an enemy lightly, which Giselle has a problem with as well. He seems like he's like, "Oh, I'm better than you."
Yeah.
And then he says, "Once you got a plan, stick to it," which is that is probably the most. That's probably the biggest like piece of battle advice that he got just then, because
Mhm.
yeah, look less than you are, but that's more for like a 1v1 situation.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
never underestimate your opponent. Yeah, a little bit of a battle, but again, 1v1 situation, which makes sense for Logan since he's a champion, doing people and shit.
Yeah. You know what before he gave the advice to Giselle, you know what I did like? I did like how he described how visceral being in a battle is, and like the different scenarios in which you can be in a battle that Giselle probably never even considered, because when you think, like, if you're growing up and you're gonna join the army, due to propaganda, nationalism, patriotism, whatever it be, you think of like the glorious battle and you overcome the odds. But
I mean,
Logan,
we
he
see it
talks,
in the Union when he's like, "Oh, one of ours is worth 10 of theirs," and they all
yeah,
like
yeah,
absolutely believe it.
exactly. And Logan is here talking about how he's like being, imagine, you got nothing but moonlight to see by, and you're ambushing people, or you're crawling in the mud, and you're just like, it's all claustrophobic, or you're in the middle of a circle, like, in a duel with surrounded by a circle of shields, and the entire weight of like the what am I talking about?
The weight of everyone crushing it.
Right.
You know,
No,
like
no.
you're
Well, I'm talking
saying.
about like everything that depends. It depends on who is winning the duel. That's what I'm trying to say. The
Okay.
ramifications are just like on your shoulders. Just one guy, and it's like you're carrying the burden of either you're gonna win and win for your side for the rest of the North, or you're gonna lose for everybody.
Yeah.
And these are scenarios that Giselle's never even considered. He's like, ha.
Yeah, I mean, like when Giselle was in a similar situation in the contest, it was just his own sort of glory, and even then, he thought it was like the most important thing in the world.
Exactly.
So it comes to this, and it's like, oh shit, this could actually have some real life ram.
Absolutely, because that's life or death, and what Giselle was going through was all about like attaining status.
Yeah. So yeah,
So continue. I'm sorry.
that's all good, man.
So they he kind of finishes talking about those 3 points of advice, and he says, "You master that, and reckon you're halfway to knowing what you're doing." And he's like, "What's the other half?" Luck.
Yeah.
As in, you're fucked.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I don't know. Good luck, buddy.
And then we transition, still in Giselle's point of view, but Pharaoh's all like, "I don't like this," because she's like always on the prowl, and everyone they're like, "Of course she doesn't like this, whatever."
I got a
Even as a
bad
reader,
feeling
you're
about
like,
this.
"Sure." But even Logan's like, this is good ground for an ambush. And then right after that, they see a tree on the road blocking their way, and they're like, "Damn it! Fuck,
Yeah.
wait, this is gonna happen." Uh, then
And
some guy
fucking
steps
some
out.
old Empires come out. Old
Yeah,
Empire guys, they're all fucking ready. Got to be like a dozen of them around them.
Is it a dozen?
my name is Phineas.
And we're looking for, and they accuse them of being bandits at first, don't they? Like, oh, we're not bandits, we're soldiers. We all know the difference between soldiers and bandits, whether they get paid on.
I think it depends how they get paid.
Exactly. And he goes, all right, so we're looking for an old bastard with a sickly looking voice, a stuck up union fool, a scarred whore, and an ape of an northerner. And Logan says, if I'm the whore, who's the northerner? I could just
Such a good line.
I could just feel Giselle cringing and just be like, oh god.
I love how Logan, through his entire run, always loves to take an opportunity to like make a good joke. He's like, "Oh, finally, a good opportunity.
This is my moment. This is my stage."
And Phineas is like, "Aha! They didn't tell me that you were funny."
Yeah. And it's like,
He's
okay, all
genuinely-
right, get in the fucking car. And I love this line as well, where he's like, I don't ask questions of you, you don't ask questions of me, that way no one gets skinned alive. Do you take my meaning, old man? It's like as if that's like some cryptic thing that needs figuring out.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like, why would you say that? You just say, no one gets skinned alive. That's it. That's strong enough.
Mhm.
If you take my meaning, yeah, I didn't think about that. That's hilarious.
And then I like how it, real quick, how Phineas is like, "What are you, soft in the head?" And then there's like some guy that grabs the bridle of Baez's horse, and
And
Baez
he
is
just
just
fucking
like,
explodes.
Yeah, he's like, "That's enough of that." Boom.
Yeah.
Giselle feels like his guts just like, it's like, oh no.
Oh god, and the devastation.
Yeah,
Dozens of these people being thrown all over the place, exploding.
it turns into absolute chaos, and he's like, "Bias are like, right then."
Yeah.
No. This is not what. This is the part where Baez loses control.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
He starts looking at his hands, and everything's fucking.
Everything's just exploding around them. Luckily, around them. So I guess he had just enough control to instill like a bit of a bubble, protecting against his magic. But he's losing it. He's losing it.
I know. I find it interesting because we've seen this exact same thing before with the trees exploding, and
Yeah.
he didn't pass out like he has here. Didn't pass out and lose consciousness. Chapter, but I think it would be interesting if the reason why it affects him more here is because it's closer to like the source of the magic or wherever, like the old world. And so like maybe the seal between the other side and the real world is less here.
Because they're close to Alcus.
Because they're close to Alcus, maybe.
Well, I thought it was because from the first book, at the end of the first book, Yulwei had told Baez, "I see I see it on you, the shadow, because that you've been using the high art way too much, and I think that it's just taking its toll." And
whereas I like George's theory. I think that's an interesting take, and maybe it does have something to do with that to a certain degree. I would say it is interesting as well, Jeff, that you're right. Yulwei did say that, which makes me wonder. He says the shadow like they dealt with that before. And if I had to guess, specifically during the Glustrad War, they might have all had the shadow. They might have all been worn out and aged, and
yeah, and just
tired.
think about it. Like, if you can remember from the first book, every time that Baez used, let's say, fuck you power, bye bye, you go bye bye. Every time he's done something like that or close to it, he's got progressively more tired, or more like the effect of using that power is more profound. And so when you are trying to take out what, dozen people, like you say, and it's a larger area, larger circumference, I just think that it was just like, okay, you need a timeout, old man. You just need to go nap. You know what I mean?
I would say
Yeah.
the only argument against your theory, George, is, well, we'll see later on. I guess we'll talk about it
Foreshadowing.
later on. Ooh.
Wait,
But I do
wait.
like that though. But yeah, he loses control, and I think the thing is that Magus can pull magic through from the other side, but if they don't have the knowledge to temper that magic, it can cause problems. So he could always pull that much through. And most of the magi can, but it's gonna fucking kill them if they pull it all through, because their bodies are not supposed to be handling that. They're supposed to be using the knowledge of the world around them. But I guess Bias got desperate, and then he realized that he might have pulled a little too much.
I like that, Harrison. You know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of like the other magi probably used magic. If I could put it in terms that I can probably explain it better. Is like they're snipers, and lately Bias has just been either straight up machine gun or just with RPGs, just like just blowing shit up. Just not even being careful about what he's hitting or who or what. He just don't give a fuck.
Yeah, he's like, fuck it! Ah! Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's an accurate thing to say.
He's
But
just
he also
he's just Rambo from First Blood, and he's always like, nothing is ever over.
And I will say this too, is that for a long time it seems like Bias does not even really need to use his magic all that much, because he's been up in the Great Northern Library just chilling.
Oh, that's a good one.
And
Oh,
so
that's
he's
good.
a little, maybe perhaps a little out of practice as well for this big old, like, wah! His magic has always been in force. So never, compared to Yulway's more subtle magic. So Yulway uses it all the time, but it's also easier to manage and everything. Smaller showings. Whereas Bias is like, he's all or nothing anyways. So without practice, he's like,
That's a good one, Harrison. I like that.
Although it does make me wonder if he's like just lining up the people in that little castle and just blowing them up for practice,
In the Northern Library. He's like, hey, little girl, you made me a little crown of flowers. Oh, nice. Get in that room.
Boom. No, it was not good enough. They, shit goes everywhere. It goes crazy. Giselle is like, frozen. He doesn't know what to do. He gets knocked off his horse. He's laying there. And then he looks up and he sees Logan like struggling. And he sees Pharaoh shooting arrows. And Logan's like, fuck it, stab him. He's fighting this huge guy after he killed another guy. And Giselle just sits there. He doesn't move.
He just freezes.
And Logan eventually gets the best of him here. And then they Pharaoh and him are like, okay, we got them all. Holy shit. Pharaoh throws such a passive aggressive insult out.
Yeah. If you'd have held him a little bit longer, Giselle might have done something.
And then they have this good moment here where Giselle is like, humbled and like not humbled as much, but he comes to Logan and is like, hey, help me out here, talk to me. And Logan accepts his olive branch and talks to him. And then this moment comes where Logan is talking and he's like, all right, well, let's get our shit together. You go get the horses. And Logan's obviously a little upset with him still for fucking not doing anything. And he's like, well, just go get the horses, whatever, not a big deal. And then fucking Giselle has the gall to be like, oh, who made you the boss?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that. Like, I know that from here, what I'm seeing, Giselle is still numb from what happened. So Logan came to him and was like, hey, you good?
I think Harrison was talking about the beginning of the chapter and like
Yes.
the way that.
Oh, sorry. George, delete that.
That's okay.
Don't delete.
But no, you're right, Harrison. I like the parallel here, and I like how this is Giselle's first fucking instincts. It's just be petulant. Like you're just seeing all this horrible shit and all these people die and they're in danger and and Bias is asleep and he's just like, who made you boss?
But even Giselle does realize it, right? If you look at, he's like, fuck. He can feel the strength of this guy's arm. He saw, the strength from Logan. He saw that Logan's eyebrows like drew in a little bit, and he's like, oh fuck, my mouth is gonna get me into all kinds of trouble. But
he's
then
like, I'm dead.
Yeah. And I like what Logan says here. Logan just kind of just went, Okay. And then he basically gives him the rundown, right?
He does like a Kratos thing. He's like, boy.
Yeah.
He's like, I
Yeah, and
made
I
you
like this because he's so calm and he's so like eloquent. He's like, I know you think that I am stupid and you're clever, and most of the time that's probably right. But when it comes to stuff like this, there's not a lot of people that know more than me, and you're not one of them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
it's
he
such
and,
a-
he, and Giselle just goes, yeah, okay.
and then Logan Nine Fingers goes, good, and grins at him.
Yeah.
And I think there was a part earlier on, right? Maybe not in this chapter, but in the previous chapter. I think it was this chapter where he said he's gotten used to Logan smiling, like laughing, and that it still looks like a little disturbing. But it's interesting because before it's like we haven't really got somebody's point of view of, oh, he smiles. It's always been from Jail's point of view, and it's gone from like being disgusting, and he's like, oh, it's still disturbing, but now I've gotten used to it being disturbing, and so when he like grins at him, I imagine that's still fucking terrifying. As he
Yeah,
like looks
especially
at him
up
right now, he's like,
close.
good.
Yeah, and I love. He's like, good, and he just claps him on the shoulder. That's right, bitch. Now, and I like. He's like, horses still need catching, and you're the man for the job. I'm like, Giselle's just like,
Yeah.
This is also the first time that after Giselle, kind of acknowledges his prominence in battle too. It's the first time Giselle actually sees Logan fight, and he sees him, kill a man, and then fight another guy, and he's like, oh my god. That's what I think really made him scared, as he realized, he's all shook up from the battle, and he tries to be sassy, and then Logan just is like, you see what I just fucking did to that guy?
Yeah.
Are you
see
serious?
the hole in his head? You see the hole in his head?
Yeah. That could be you.
Listen, you may know more about pipes than me, but I know all about killing.
Fucking pipe.
There are pipes in the ground.
You fucking love that part.
I do. Fucking love it.
Well, what would you rate that chapter, Jeffrey?
Giving it a 7 out of 9, baby. You guys did great rereading that for me, so I'm happy. 7 out of 9.
Notice the chapters he didn't do good on are the ones.
What?
He's like, yeah. He goes off of how we said it. So if we said it good, then he's like, that was a good chapter.
Yeah.
It's basically how. Yeah. For this episode, sorry. Guys.
Needs must. I think I'm gonna give this. Well, I love the action. I love Baez.
You cut out. What were you saying?
Did I?
You cut out for me, man. I'm sorry. What?
So, yeah, no, I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 9 as well. Like, I like fight scenes. I love, I love just the sheer amount of chaos that Baez causes just by losing control. And I love this, like, very like strong heart to heart. So, yeah, 7.
Yeah, George. I like that you point that out because honestly, the two separate interactions between Logan and Giselle, though I feel like those are the highlights because you can see the gears start to shift in Giselle's mind in terms of his perception of Logan and Giselle's own like self-doubt actually being a bit more prominent and even from his own perspective. So yeah, I like that.
We're watching character growth here in the making.
Yeah, buddy.
What about you, Harrison?
I think I'm gonna go 3 for 3 with you guys. 7 out of 9.
Shit!
7.
Trifecta!
The Holy Trinity. For the same reasons, I think the beginning of the chapter is really good in relation to the end, and we get to see some different sides of some of the characters, and it has that kind of now that we transition in the last chapter, transition into a more interesting dynamic, I would say, other than cold shoulder conversation. Now it's into more intimate, more understanding of each other.
Yeah.
And I also really like that Baez part. It just adds this whole other. There's this whole background plot with Baez. I mean, you can just tell from the beginning. There's something going on with Baez, whatever it might be, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck is happening, but every single time something happens, I kind of love it.
Yeah.
So, it's very nice.
Nice. That's awesome. Love those scores, gents. Love them. So let's go on to our next segment, which is our final segment, and it's our community interaction segment. Harrison, do you want to take this over?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I do want to say quickly thank you for all the support on the Great Northern War video. I know we mentioned at the beginning, but everybody has been very supportive, so means a lot. Thank you. Number 2, the poll we did, I did it a little late. I had the flu this past weekend, so I was late to doing it. In fact, the only reason I did it is because in our guest Discord, Spur Safeman said no poll. So I was like, oh,
Harrison's fingers just crawled to his phone.
I must support the podcast. I just hadn't eaten in a while. No, buddy.
Okay. I mean, that's cool.
Eaten.
You're all right, Harry.
Oh, eaten.
The flesh of man. I was kidding. I know that was an obscure one. I know. Anyway, so favorite flag. This is kind of a weird one, but we haven't really. I've been trying to make these flags for the videos as well as just because they're cool. And there are some unique flags inside of the First Law universe. There's Bethod's Bloody Circle on a black standard, the Cross Hammers of England, the Golden Sun of the Union, the Black Cross of Talons, the White Tower of Austria. And there's quite a few other little banners and flags and stuff. And I was just curious to see, what people thought. The Golden Sun of the Union one, I assume just by pure recognition. But Bethod's Bloody Circle on a black standard I got second. And I thought that was cool. Because that's a cool-ass flag. Gentlemen?
Yeah, it is cool.
yeah,
And I especially love the renditions that you stuck on our social media. If you want to go check those out,
Go check it out on Instagram Circle of the World Podcast. Yeah. And some people in the comments gave some other ideas. There's that one, the Golden Sun of the Union, with all the battle victories embroidered on it, which is kind of a cool idea for that standard of the 1st Regiment. There's also the one with the rearing horse for the Steadfast Regiment. And then somebody, which I completely forgot about it, was Rico's Long Eye standard, which is basically the long eye on a black field, which is cool. Yeah. Imagine seeing that above your, above the battlefield, and all you can think about is that there's a witch leading that army, and she can see everything, and that eye is looking at you. It's like that. It's like the Eye of Sauron, right? You see the banner, and you're like, oh my god.
It's like, oh no.
You can see my soul. She knows my future. I just think that's a badass.
Did you see what I did last night in my house?
Yeah, you're right, Jeff. It's probably the biggest thing. Oh, she knows that I pee the bed still. So thank you for everybody who participated. Not a very big poll, but people who went and followed the Instagram, I will keep posting banners as they come, and we plan on doing more AI art and stuff. Just we've all had a pretty busy time lately. I know we've been saying that a lot lately, but it's the truth. We all have lives.
But we still manage to get an episode out every week.
That's right. Even if it is on a Wednesday after work. Whenever it's 1 o'clock
fucking
in the morning.
2 in the morning.
Yeah.
2 in the morning.
Like for me, it's been the transition for new jobs for me, and it's been insane. Harrison was sick. George had some personal, stuff going on. Like, it's crazy. So we're trying our best.
We hope you still enjoy it.
We seek your validation.
Yes. Give us your validation. Give us compliments.
Love me.
That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. As you all know, this is a passion project for the 3 of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Join us next week as we cover 100 Words, The Blind Lead the Blind, and Prince Ladislaus' Stratagem.
And make sure you follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Reddit, we're on Twitter, and we have a website, circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast as it helps to spread our reach. Thank you all again for listening.
Who made you the leader?